Hey everyone, welcome to Founders 365 with me, Steven Haggerty. Today I am joined by Fritzius, founder of Arch DevOps. How are you today, man?
I am doing excellent. Made it to another Tuesday, man. How you doing?
Made it to another Tuesday. I'm
Yeah.
not sure if that's like a really positive way to look at life or a really depressing way to look at life. Like,
It's
oh, I've
only
made it to
Tuesday.
another, yeah, only
Yeah.
Tuesday. Made
Yeah.
it to another Tuesday. But hey ho, dude, I'm good. I'm glad you're on the show. I'm so glad you're here. So I guess for the listeners and the viewers, it'll be great just to start off with a little overview of what you do, what your business is, and who you help.
Sure, excellent. Well, I'll start generic and get more specific. Uh, so the elevator pitch goes, "Hey, we do nerd stuff, computer nerd stuff, right?" And more specifically, a lot of what we do is enable large and small businesses and medium-sized ones too to be really successful with technology. And early on in Arch DevOps, when I started it 5 years ago, it was very testing focused. So really make sure that the testing is efficient and automated and just smooth sailing, right? And in the last year, it's evolved into a lot more than that. So a lot of custom software, a lot of QA, like software testing practices and processes and websites. And we've even gotten into social media marketing and search engine optimization, everything that bits and pieces of that every company needs in order to get to that next level. And now we're full service agency. We do all kinds of cool stuff and we love helping people, and people come to us with unique challenges. No two projects are the same, and I love it.
I love it.
So, yeah,
I love how you set that up as like we do the nerd stuff.
we do the nerd stuff.
We
It's
do the
like
nerd stuff.
there's a lot of heavy lifting, and there's a lot of wild stuff that goes on. Like when you're looking at what a company does, you're looking at the tip of the iceberg, and there's so much crazy infrastructure and databases and just blah. And we love that blah stuff, and we do it for people so they don't have to mess with it.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So, in your industry, there's a lot of competition. There's a lot of people doing what you offer. How do you make sure that you're being heard, that you're being seen, that you're putting your head above everyone else's?
That's a really good question, and I think what it comes down to is responsiveness. A little bit of background about me. I didn't consider myself a process geek until really just recently. If you had asked me a couple of years ago, "Hey Fritz, what do you think about process?" And I'll be like, "I don't need process. I don't tell me how to think. I'm going to do what I want to do. It gets in the way, right?" Well, it
I'm
doesn't.
doing just fine.
I'm doing just fine. Don't tell me how to do my job. Give me the freedom. I don't need guardrails. But since then, more recently, it's like, hey, process is a great thing. And one of the ways that we distinguish ourselves is how we respond to customers. We've got some systems in place that enable us to quickly respond. If somebody says, "Hey, do you have the ability to do XYZ?" We say, "Yeah." So we'll ask all of our people that do X, all of our people that do Y and Z, and get some numbers together and get some quotes together and get them over to the customers so that they have information in front of them and they can make an informed decision. Along with that, we're really big on social media, love building relationships on social media, love taking relationships offline, love having things like podcasts with people and just building that rapport. We're not so nerdy that we just abandon the right brain part of just being human, so
Mm,
we're that's how we distinguish ourselves. Or I
love
guess
it.
maybe does everybody else do that too? Or
Yeah, that's the thing. It's whenever I ask that question, sometimes the answers are just like, well, we're doing exactly what everyone else does. So
yeah.
how do you distinguish yourself? And the fact that actually, in marketing and agency terms, there's new businesses being created every single day,
Hmm.
offering very similar things. But, I love the nerd approach. I think that's a very honest way to look at it because a lot of people don't realize how technical some of these things are.
Hmm.
And for you, when you start working with clients, what are some of the typical conversations that you have in those early days that give you that sort of that bit of excitement when you find that client that you want to work with, that fizz in the stomach about what
Mm.
this project could lead to?
When, well, any conversation that has a lot of good chemistry. Like I've had clients where, early on it's like, there's some red flags here, but they got money, let's ignore them, right? And other times it's like there have been some amazing conversations that you have, and you can tell because you're relating to them on a very human level. You're able to
Mm,
speak to them about what's keeping them up at night. Like, why do they have heartburn at 3 in the morning? What is it that's waking them up and making them worry? Okay, and dig into that. Not with an intent to, all right, we're going to twist the knife and make it really hurt, but we want you to know that we understand because we've had some of those same fears and pains and gripes in our own company. We understand. And when we're able to break this down and say, okay, this is a this kind of problem, this is a process problem, or it's a personnel problem, or it's an efficiency problem, then we're starting to speak the language that they're understanding. And those are
mm,
just like, ah, I love those. I love those kinds of conversations. I had somebody tell me one time, I said, I'm not a good salesperson. And they're like, are you kidding me, Fritz? You're like the best salesperson. There was a conversation we had, and my business partner, Alex, he goes, if we had been like nurturing them for a couple weeks beforehand, you probably would have walked out the door with a signed six-figure contract. Like you basically went in cold and had them realize, like, whoa, these guys actually know their stuff. And when we have the budget, we're going to bring them in. And I said, is that what it's all about? And he goes, yeah. And I'm like, well, I love doing that. It's so much fun, just being able to speak knowledgeably and in a personal
yeah.
way to other people. It's fun, dude. Woo-hoo.
It is fun, and that's the thing, right? Sales is supposed to be fun
Yeah.
because that classic saying of sales is serving. And I think you've just hit the nail on the head when you take all those sort of techniques that people sell and all those frameworks that people sell to know how to sell, and you just boiled it down to actually it's just a really good conversation,
Hmm.
imparting some knowledge and how helping that person get to the solution that they want, and so they're not staying up in the middle of the night having a 3 a.m. heartburn.
Hmm.
That's just no fun for anyone. For
Yeah.
you, your business has been going since late 2015, sorry, nearly 5 years on. How has it changed then? How has it changed in those 5 years or nearly 5 years since when you first had the idea of going, you know what, I'm going to step into this world and see how we do?
Wow. How long do we have on this podcast?
As long as you want.
As long as you want, man. Well, it's a 3-hour story, and that's the abridged
Not that
version.
long.
No, I'm joking. Well, you know what? It's been a really interesting progression. And I'll tell you why. When I first started out with Arch DevOps, it was based on an idea that I had been sitting on for a couple years. And I thought, it can't be that hard to find clients. I mean, recruiters find clients all the time. And I was working through a lot of recruitment firms. I'm like, I could do this. I could do
How
this and cut
hard
out
can
the
it
middleman.
be? The famous
How
last
hard?
words.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. Second only to, hey guys, watch this. Um, so yeah, how hard could it be? And when I first started out, I had intended to uh, go in and just do full time work. It's just me. I'm the execution arm, and then find more work as the contracts ramp down. I just keep doing that, keep doing that, keep doing that, and then um, I had a contract that got cut short, and they gave me lots of notice. They did a lot of work to try to find me some extra employment there, and it ended up not happening. And I was then out of work for 4 months. I didn't realize at the time it was going to be 4 months, but that's
Wow.
just how long it was. And when I finally got another contract, I told him, I said, okay, well, I do my work part time. I decided, I'm like, I'm not going to put all my eggs in one basket anymore. So I'll bill a higher rate, but I'll work part time and it'll still work out to be the same. Like if it's a 6 month project,
Sure.
then right. And during that time, I ended up getting two more projects, and I thought, uh oh, I can't do all this. And so then I had to hire somebody, and I hired a guy. I brought him on, and we worked together for quite a while, like about a year and a half, and he did some awesome things, and I was able to take him from being a pure manual QA tester who wanted to get into automation and get into automation. I trained him and I taught him everything I knew, and he learned some things outside of what I taught him. So I'm like, success, he made it. And we got to a point where we had 2 employees and I had an intern that was working with us, and we were rocking and rolling, and our pipeline had dried up, and it was due in partly because of coronavirus. And then I ended up having to let everybody go, and that sucked. And now, the progression is, got a business partner. He's got a software development company. I do the stuff with the QA and the automation. We also do the social media, the marketing, all that extra stuff, the websites. And we've switched over to a consultant slash contractor model. And I had a lot of people tell me, hey, you should read this book, The E-Myth Revisited. I had like 7 people tell me, and I'm like, I guess I got to read the book. The universe is trying to tell me something. And I learned a lot about the freedom that comes from working on the business, not in the business. So when I first
Powerful.
started out, I'm like, I'm in the business, I'm doing the thing. And now I'm like, I have people that'll do the thing for us, but it's up to me to find the work for those people and
Yeah.
foster those conversations. So it's like everything that could change changed. So
How did that feel though? How did that change feel when, obviously, like you said, you had to let people go? You probably never had to do that before. How did it feel coming to terms with that, knowing that this was a new chapter in the nicest way possible for the business?
right. Well, I'm not gonna lie, man. There was some ugly crying, and I had admittedly foolishly said, I'm never going to let anybody go. I'm never going to fire anybody. I'm going to have an awesome culture. I'll be like, the Amazon or the Gravity payments of the tech world. It's like, wow, they've never had any turnover. Amazing. Yeah, that in 100% of my people I lost, right? And it was hard, and I think the reason why it was so hard was because I put my identity in with the company.
Sure.
Like, hey, I'm Fritz. I'm Mr. Arch DevOps, right? And it looks bad on me if I have to let people go.
Hmm.
And in talking with other business owners, they said, it sucks. Nobody ever wants to have this happen, but it is a part of business. And sometimes it does happen because there's a bajillion factors that are outside of your control. You could have all the process in the world. You could be doing everything right. And then something happens like, I don't know, worldwide pandemic perhaps, and it just
Yeah, just something
throws,
out of the blue,
just it's random, right? It's like, what are the
just that
chances of
little
that?
little blip in
Yeah,
2020.
the one thing that we didn't think of, and it just comes apart, right? And
Mm,
it could just even be you're doing everything right, but the sector is affected, or
sure.
your location, or your demographic, or something, anything, and it could just all come down. And it's like, it doesn't mean you suck. It
Mm,
doesn't mean you are a failure. Yeah, maybe you failed at something, but failure is an event, and it's something that just, it's a piece of data. What can we learn from this?
yeah.
And when I was able to kind of distance myself from that, I was like, well, first, it's not the end of the world. I thought it was going to be. And then once it happened, it's like, well, I felt like a tremendous weight was lifted, and they've found some stuff. So, I mean, it's not like they're homeless or anything. So they're, everybody's doing fine.
They're good. They're fine.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're good. They're good. Um, but yeah, it's one of those things where, yeah, it's a chapter in life,
Mm,
and if you treat it like data and say, okay, how do I prevent that suck from happening again, and put some things in place, then you're on the right track. But yeah, I couldn't just get like introverted and be like, oh my goodness, I can't believe what the heck. It's like, I can't. It doesn't work. I can't do
yeah.
that.
You gotta, in those moments, I think it's that sort of shows who's leaders and who aren't. You know,
Yeah,
you could have, like you said, you could have cried in the corner, and like you said, there were a few ugly tears, but hey, who's a good looking cry? No one.
yeah,
But it also showed that you made an informed decision to make sure that you protected the business. These people are not helpful if there's no work for them, right?
right.
It doesn't fulfill people, it doesn't help people. The unknown is worse than anything else.
Mm-hmm.
So, you stepped up to that plate and being like, I'm going to do something that's super uncomfortable. The fact that you linked it so with your identity about the whole, I'm not going to fire anyone, which is, I love that statement. And I'm pretty sure Amazon have definitely fired people. But
Yeah.
it just means that it shows how much it meant to you as well. What do you think is the biggest learning that you've learned from that and you're implementing into this new era of your business?
Hmm. I think overall, the biggest lesson comes from paying attention to the rate of evolution. What I mean by that is, we're all on our own path. We're all going to have challenges where we have to adapt, right? And for some people, they they have those challenges come once a year or once every 5 years or once every 6 months, and they just sort of happen. It's like, "Yeah, we'll cross that bridge when we come to it, right?
Yeah.
And we'll figure it out." But what I'm doing, and this is probably going to sound like, Fritz, you're nuts. Why are you making life harder on yourself? But I actively seek out opportunities to get out of my own comfort zone.
Hmm.
And in part, it's my fault because I keep building relationships with people that don't think like me. And then they challenge me to think differently. And it's like, wow,
Is
that
that
really is
predominantly
something.
in is that predominantly in business or personal life?
Both, yeah. So, I mean, in business, I'm with a bunch of different people, different sectors, different markets, and things like that. Used to be it would be QA people and technical recruiters. That was my whole network, and now I've got a lot of creatives, marketers, content creators, all kinds of videographers, weird people, all over the
Hmm.
place, all over the spectrum. Outside of business, in my personal life, I mean, I'm a Christian, but I have lots of friends that are Jewish, atheist, agnostic. They're just, their view on life is different. And it's like, hey, I can't travel the world right now, but I can at least expose myself to the world and let them, have an impact on me, and just keep getting that data, keep being adjusted. Um, but
And is
yeah,
that is that something you've always done, or is that something that you've sort of adopted along the way?
I've adopted it along the way, really, because um in my younger days, I mean, you're kind of constrained, right?
Hmm.
Think of, we got four girls, right? And their ages 10, 9, 6, and 4. And it's like, okay, well, I mean, as much as possible, we want them to be aware of different ideologies, but because they're not like driving, and they're not in the working world, and they're not being exposed to a bunch of different people and business and culture and stuff like that, it's like they're kind of limited.
Yeah, they still
And
see what you want them to see.
yeah, exactly, exactly. And it's not like, oh my goodness, we got to shelter. Like, you got to protect them somewhat, but
Yeah,
we're not like closing them off from the world of people that we just don't agree with. It's like they've got opinions, right? Let's hear them. And I was like that growing up, and I think a lot of kids are. They're they're just limited with what they can be reached by. And as I grew older and I got into business, and I'm, going to different companies and rapidly changing where I'm working, like on a yearly basis, it exposed me to a lot more people. And yeah, I mean, I probably change or pivot in some fashion maybe once a month,
wow.
and it's wild. So it's
So
like,
what does
wow,
that?
yeah.
You mentioned that you're always looking to step out your comfort zone. Two questions arise from that: is how do you know when you need to step out your comfort zone, when you have that desperate need to think, I need to stretch this? And two, how do you make sure that you're stepping out your comfort zone in the right direction? And that might be a little bit of a twisted question, because I guess the moment you step out your comfort zone is back to in that unknown, but it's also our natural self always protects ourselves from some element.
Right, it does. Um, let's see. So the first question was when. So what was the first question? Like, when do you know it's
When
time?
do you know? Yeah. So when do you know it's time to, what's going on in your head, and you think, I need to mix this up. I need to step out my comfort zone.
When I start feeling like I've got things figured out, if I say that phrase in my head, like, okay, I think I got this figured out. Uh-oh. That is a
That's a red
key.
flag.
That is a trigger warning, sir. It's like, oh my goodness, I can't believe I said that to myself. And then it's like, I guess I got to try something new. Well, and it's like weightlifting, right? It's like
Hmm.
if you find it's too easy to do it anymore, and you're like, all right, I got this. All right, well, that means you're not getting stronger. You're not improving. It's time to clap some more weights on there, or change up, or do some different exercises or something. Get out of your comfort zone.
Yeah.
Um, the other question that you asked, knowing that you're going in the right way, is it's a matter of, hey, in doing this, in performing this new action, am I compromising any principles? Is my conscience bothering me? And more often than not, I feel like, yeah, I'm on the right track. It's still forward motion. It's a new direction. It's taking you to a goal, which, yeah, sometimes I don't know what their goal is until I get there. But as long as I'm impacting people in a positive way, if I'm able to enrich their lives somehow, or I'm able to improve the quality of life of people around me, that's it.
Mm.
As long as I've got a good testimony about what I'm doing, then, I'm on the right track. So it really simplifies things. I have a tendency to overthink. If you had met me 10 years ago, you'd be like, dude, just do a thing, pull the trigger, just go, come
Just
on.
do it.
You're overthinking this. And now it's like, I still have a tendency to overthink, but
Mm.
I'm more likely to act in a particular direction and say, hey, if we start going off the rails, we'll just make a slight correction instead of we got to get it perfect the first time,
Yeah.
because that hesitation just leads to a world of regret. So
100%. And the worst,
yeah,
I always give an analogy is if you don't do it, you're going to be sat in a restaurant in a year's time. You're going to end up speaking to a stranger, ask what they do, and they're going to be doing exactly what you wanted to do a year ago. And you're going to
yeah,
kick yourself that you're not that stranger telling someone what you do.
yeah,
There's always going to be someone rooting and trying to move quicker than you, whether you know it or not, whether they're in your eye line or not. There's always something going on. For
yeah.
you, what's next then? You've partnered with this new business partner. What is next for the business? How are you predicting growth over the next sort of 6 to 12 months, and how do you expect to do that?
That's a huge question, man.
Big
I don't
question, man.
actually know how to answer that. So,
Oh no.
um, sorry. Well, show's
Well,
over. Thanks for listening. No, I'm joking.
yeah. Thanks.
Yeah. Um, so,
What's going on then? Just break it down then. What is going on in the business in the next 6 to 12 months?
well, it is really slow right now, and we're not making a whole lot of money at the moment.
I love the
And
honesty.
yeah, well, I mean, I'm not gonna try to smear it over, right? I mean, the pandemic is really taking a huge chunk out of our revenue. The places that we normally would go to, they're a little bit scared to spend money. They don't really want to do the 5, 6, 7 figure projects like what we're normally going after.
Mm-hmm.
Like get 3 or 4 whales and get them going, and you're covered for a bit. But what we have had is a lot of people coming to us about smaller things, things like websites or
Mm-hmm.
lightweight applications, stuff like that. So that's why I've been working on different processes to make sure that we can efficiently get information in front of people and say, okay, well, let's have a discovery call. Let's dig in and find out what the need is, what's really bugging you, and how to fix that. And then we'll get our different teams to look at the requirements and say, okay, we can do it for this much, and get some proposals and just automate that as much as possible.
Yeah.
And I think that, focusing on the responsiveness of the company is what's really gonna set us apart, because
Mm.
kind of going back to the human aspect of it, a lot of people are scared. I'm scared. I mean, you would think I wouldn't be, but there's a lot of uncertainty in the world,
Yeah. Huge
right?
unknowns.
Yeah. And nobody knows. Like, I don't know what the world's gonna be like next
Mm.
month or next week. Like,
But
anything
it's
could happen.
strange, right? The
Yeah.
world has always been like society has always been full of unknowns.
Yeah.
No one could truly predict what's going to happen in a month or 2 months' time.
Oh,
What
I
I
know.
think 2020 has shown you is just how unknown that can happen so quickly.
Spot on. And there's, as you go through life, you kind of, when you figure things out, there's that trigger warning again. I got this figured out, right? Um, what you're saying is, yeah, we know what the unknowns are. We know what's kind of wiggly, what's a variable in life, and
Hmm.
what's fairly stable. And this pandemic has shown, like, haha, there's another variable that you didn't know about, and suddenly everything is on its head.
Yeah.
And it's like, whoa, what the heck? Like, I never. Well, what else is there? What else? Like, what if a meteor hits the Earth? What if the moon crashes into
Yeah.
the ocean? You know, that kind of thing. And and it could be scary, but I really think that having having that good rapport at building those relationships and being regular and following up and asking questions and not just coming to them, hey, you want to buy our thing, but just chat with them.
Yeah.
What's going on in their world? What
Humanizing.
cool things? Yeah, exactly. And I think we don't do that as much. Really good
No, I
salespeople
agree.
do. But
I
yeah,
think I
it's
think
yeah.
humanizing things is so easily forgotten because there's so many bits of software out at the moment that have that whole sales thing of, hey, we'll do it for you.
Hmm.
We, plug and play, automate every single part of it. But you can automate 99% of your business. That's fine by me. But that 1% of humanization is the 1% that makes you different from everyone else,
Hmm.
and makes you different and makes you understand what people really need and understand your customers, that no automation tool will ever be able to figure out.
Right.
But I think some founders, some business owners really get hung up on that 99% and forget the humanization side of it,
Hmm. They
which is
do.
just dangerous.
Yeah. What do you think causes that? I'm curious your thoughts.
Causes the forgetfulness.
Yeah. Why do they forget about the human side?
Um, in all honesty, I think it comes down to money and probably credibility in the business world. They've got to make it look like their business is doing a lot more than others.
Mhm.
And there's one way to do that is speed, and the other way to do that is excessive output. And having excessive output is great and growth is great, but one of the things that I see a lot in businesses that are growing is that they forget their values, they forget their beliefs, they forget why they started the business in the first place,
Mhm.
because this overwhelming amount of noise and busyness has happened in the workplace or in the office, or working from home, and they get hung up or caught up in that numbers game of, hey, we're doing 10% better every month, we're doing 5% better every month, we're doing 1% better every month, whatever the number is.
Mhm.
And it's just so easy to forget that. And I think on the flip side of 2020 world pandemic happening, it has caused a lot of business owners and founders, and actually not just that, people in long-term careers, to really reflect on what is truly going on in their business, what is truly going on in their life, what do they really value, what do they want to do moving forward, who do they want to serve, all these questions that they haven't had time to truly process or truly
Mm.
ask themselves.
Yeah.
And a career person, a career person's a lot easier to give an example of, because you wake up, you go to work, you get home, you sleep, you wake up, you go to work, you get home, you sleep. There's that sort of rat race that people get trapped in,
Right.
and suddenly that rat race isn't happening because you've been told to stay at home, you've been told to work from your office, your home office,
Mhm.
which means that people have been able to see their kids wake up, have breakfast with them, have dinner, see kids grow, all these other great things that happen in their life that just wasn't quite on their radar beforehand.
Mhm.
So I think that's a big reason why people forget that 1%.
Yeah.
So it'll be
I
very interesting to see moving forward
yeah.
how that changes.
Yeah. I think there's really going to be some huge dynamics. I mean, I'm already seeing evidence of that because some of these companies that have full work from home abilities, first they made that change seemingly overnight.
Hmm.
And they're like, okay, everybody's working from home. And there's going to be some companies that are like, okay, well, let's come back into the office. Or you've seen recently these stories about companies that, deduct wages. They lower the salary if you decide to move somewhere that
Mm.
has a lower standard of living. And it's like, well, then you don't need as much money. And it's like,
That
That
wasn't the deal.
sucks. Right. That wasn't the deal. I signed a paper that said you're going to pay me this many zeros, and I expect all of them to be there. Um, yeah, I think there's going to be some upsets, and there's going to be some
Yeah.
people moving to different
I
companies.
think there's
So,
real opportunity for business owners, founders to have a lot of access to very high quality employees that
mhm.
have decided to leave those companies that decided to end the flexibility to say, hey, actually, everyone needs to come back into the office when working from home has been working brilliantly for the last 3-4 months. I
Yeah.
think it's going to show that the moment that people start going back in those commuting 5 days a week, stuck on a train, stuck in their car in traffic, getting back into that routine, seeing Dave buy the water cooler every day, and they're gonna go through these thought processes of like, why am I doing this? What this isn't as fulfilling as I once thought it was.
Yeah.
So if companies don't allow that flexibility, don't allow that, you mentioned culture earlier, but don't allow that culture growing format that isn't in the office, then business is going to struggle because, you could look at it in the one hand saying that there's always going to be someone that will do someone else's job. But actually, do you want that? Do you want a business filled with people that aren't really meant to be there, but they're good at their job,
Yeah.
but they don't want to be there,
Yeah.
You're going to have some companies that are going to take full advantage and be able to reap the rewards of getting really high quality staff at great prices, if we put it that way, but
Hmm.
also that they show that they value them. And that's
Yeah.
what's going to be the big turning point in the next 18 months.
I think so too. I think any company that has that view of, okay, anybody else can do your job. It's like, all right, well, you're creating a
Yeah,
culture of fear. You're
exactly.
you're having people that are not fully invested, that they've always got one foot in, one foot out, and they're not giving their best because at any time they could let me go and I got to go find some work, right?
Yeah.
So their heart and soul isn't going to be in it. And I think that I've been talking with some recruiters recently, and I said, hey, I got a theory about this. If you can identify companies that are going to keep the work from home policies in place even after it's okay not to do that, then I think you're going to see some slosh. People are going to leave companies that are like,
Yeah, for
come
sure.
back to the office, and they'll be like, nah,
Yeah.
I'm going to go somewhere else where I can work from home.
Well, I think what will happen is those companies that say, hey, you have to come back to the office, there'll probably be a month or two of people complying,
Right.
but then it will be that whole, oh, actually, I am missing the life that I realized I wanted. And they're gonna see a huge turnaround.
Yeah.
And this is not even getting into that conversation about the opportunity for how places like WeWork and all those kind of other areas that can really pivot into offering companies the office space without the office space, if that
Hmm.
makes sense. I think
Yeah.
there's a huge opportunity in there as well, which is really really interesting, and it's a very interesting time of the world right now.
Yeah. There's a lot of volatility out there, and there's ways to make money and ways to find opportunities to do
Mm,
business. And that's just one of them, right? Where are
exactly,
people going to go?
and it's always been volatile, right? There's
Mhm.
never there's never a space in the world where it's fully 110% safe. There's
Right.
always an aspect of potential change, potential fear, potential loss, all that kind of stuff.
Mhm.
And 2020, like I said, I think has just allowed people to realize what they really want, where they really want to go, which has given them the confidence and the stability to stand on their own legs. I mean, I don't know the data on this, but just from what I've seen, the amount of like micro businesses that have probably been formed in the last 3, 4, 5 months would be a very interesting stat to find out,
Yeah.
because from what I've seen, it's a hell of a lot,
Yeah, it is.
which
And
is great.
that's, yeah. And every person that forms multiples of those, right, they're creating multiple revenue streams, which is a lot more stability if
Yeah,
you think about it.
exactly.
And everybody else that previously was, hey, I'm working 50 plus hours a week at a salaried job and it's stable. And then, wonder of wonders, they lose that
Yeah,
job and now it's not stable. So, diversifying your income streams is always a good thing.
100%.
I like
It,
that.
I think one of the other areas that people are gonna struggle in is obviously over here in the UK we have like healthcare that is free to anyone, but in the States it's so much more complicated, and that's such a draw for people to have jobs because healthcare and all that kind of stuff. So,
Hmm.
having I'm sure there's already someone coming up and doing this, but some sort of solution for that side of things that makes it easy for people to get access to pretty much all the benefits they would have if they were in a full-time secure job,
Hmm.
but on the basis of they're running a micro business or a fully fledged funded business.
Right.
There's opportunity for that as well.
Yeah, there is. And I know that US healthcare is it sucks. I'll just say it. I can say it
It
because I'm here.
sucks.
It sucks, man.
It's
Um,
expensive.
it is, it is. And I get it. I understand that. It has to suck in order for people to get upset enough that they come up with a better way, right?
Mm,
So it's like, yeah, healthcare needs reformed, but it's not going to come from the outside. It's going to come from the inside. And it's a business, just like
yeah.
any other business. It's going to be there's some startup or some company that decides to spin off and say, we're going to solve this problem.
Hmm.
And it's going to be an uphill battle, but
Yeah,
that's,
it's a long journey, that one.
yeah, it
That's
definitely
that's
is.
a that is our 3 hour podcast talking about that.
Yeah, it is.
For sure. But Fritz, listen, I've thoroughly enjoyed this conversation. I love how we've gone off on the little roads there. I think it's been really valuable for the listeners and
Yeah.
viewers. So thank you for your time. My final question is how can people find out more about you? How can people get in touch and connect with you?
Oh, well, if you want to stop by our website, we're at archdevops.com. And if you want to contact me directly, I'm at Fritz at archdevops.com. Find me on LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter. Um, where else am I? Instagram. I post some stuff there. I'm all over the place.
TikTok?
Yeah, but I'm all over. Yeah, find me. And I will connect
Amazing.
with anybody on LinkedIn or friend anybody on Facebook. And we'll just have a good conversation.
Perfect. Fritz,
Yeah.
thank you so much for coming on Founders 365. I really valued your time and this conversation.
Well, thank you for inviting me, sir. I appreciate it.
Thank you. And thanks everyone for listening and watching. Like I said, this has been Founders 365.